Hello, everybody. This is Stan, the Data Roll podcast host, and today we are discussing games, or rather, more precisely, the ins and outs of games with a flavor of data. My guest today is Rok Hribar, Commercial Director of BF Games. Hello, Rok.
Hello, nice to meet you. Thank you for inviting me over.
Likewise, thanks for joining. And before we make a deep dive into all of the details, I got so many questions to ask you today. But to start with, could you cast some light on your role, responsibilities, and actually how did you end up in here?
How did I end up in the interview, or how did I end up in the Biffy Games? For the Biffy Games, I know, and for the interview also, marketing team is really responsible for this part. As a chief commercial officer at the Biffy Games, I'm mostly responsible for driving the revenue up and also for market expansion, of course. However, we are right now focusing also a lot on internal markets where we already are present. We are looking at different strategies. Also, basically improving the relationship with clients, which were maybe neglected in previous years. So now we're trying to do, in the last 3 years, we're trying to do a lot of special activities, meetings, events as well, travels, meeting with clients. So we're doing a lot of activities with my team. I have a team of account managers and sales managers who are helping me with this. And we had really nice growth in the last 2 years. We almost double all the results, so we're doing good. And we also entered to new markets, like, for example, the last one, Brazil, even though we're still trying to conquer the Amazonian forest, but we're getting there.
And before Biffy, throughout your career, you were working also for other game studios, but not only?
So I was working before for Oryx, or now called Bragg Group. So I was working there as an aggregation manager in a way for 3 years. And that's why also maybe Biffy Games has an aggregation as well. It slipped out a little bit, but yeah, I was there for 3 years, so I got into the industry with Bragg, which was a really good start, and I think it's an amazing company in that sort of way that you get really a lot of knowledge in one place, and I learned a lot from that. So really thankful for that experience. However, now we're here in Biffy Games, and we are, really focused and developing quickly as much as possible, because we are sort of, let's say we have 300 people in our team. So we're still kind of like sort of small to medium sized company. And yeah, we have a lot to do. And like, we have also our own platform, our websites, we have even our land base. So a lot of things are happening at the same time. However, I'm just responsible for the online part. Thank God.
Okay, and since, as you mentioned, your key focus is selling online games, so what would you say, what are the biggest challenges in selling casino games, and how to actually showcase your games? What are the best ways to showcasing them and convince the operators to sign?
So we don't have any issues with showcasing our games or doing any sort of problems with that, because Biffy, in a way, I always say it's like best friends, games. So, but like, we're a really friendly bunch of people who try to do what we can. And we have our game portfolio, which is quite big. We have now 125 games. We have also sweepstake games. We have dice games. So we're doing a lot of different markets. So we're quite, we added all this in just 2 years' time. So it was quite a big responsibility of all the team members to actually chip in, and but we made it, right? So it was really good. So right now, like, our top games would be like 7 Golden Hit, Fiery Slots, Cash Mash Ultra, Stunning Crown, Blasting Rubies. So yeah, it's a lot of new games and new titles, new mechanics. We play around a lot with these volatilities and also adding some additional features, which kind of help us bringing new players, and that we keep our base and we get some new pit players at the same time. And we're testing out still a lot of things, because we're still trying to find the best possible game there that would really represent our Biffy game portfolio, right?
Okay, and about the selling points, what are the selling points and which jurisdictions do you target specifically most?
We have 24 jurisdictions, so quite a lot to talk about. I don't think we have time. But for us, the most important jurisdiction, I mean, is Polish, of course, because it's a Polish company. On the other side, we have still CIS region is still quite important. However, we drastically lower dependency on that market. So now we are like almost 65% on regulated markets. It also depends what you put in the basket of regulated markets sometimes, because company to company differently see this. Then we are, I mean, for us, it's like we're now trying to conquer the whole Europe, I would say. That's our goal. But we also went on the other side of the pond. So we went to Canada, for example. We have Ontario license. We went to Brazil, for example. Now we're thinking of Peru. I mean, it was a plan already last year, but we kind of figured out that we are still need to develop better on the Brazilian market, and that's why the delay. However, everybody's asking us to join this saga of Peru. However, we'll do this sooner or later. And then we also like the regulars, like UK license, Greece license, Romanian license, and so on. So we're quite adding a lot of things at the same time and expanding those portfolios there, right? So it's quite a huge investment in that sort of way as well, because every certificate costs money, right? So
Not only money, I take it, and especially since you operate in this context of many, multiple different markets, what would you say about the role of localization in terms of building your products?
localization. Well, it in one way we are doing localization in that way that we first pick the games which we think that will the best work on for that specific market, because in some places the teams already have quite a big impact. On the other ones, special mechanics. In the others, more volatility part kicks in. So it's really a mash of everything. And normally it's not just one thing; it's several things at the same time. And to try things, of course, you need to have some games which are going to be out of the basket of normality of that market. So we also put that into the mix, and then we learn from it, right? I mean, we always learn from every single game that we launch, how actually the players respond on each market. We analyze this data. We have now 2 assistant account managers who are helping us with this to analyze the data. We have our game department, which is analyzing it even deeply. So it's really on every single level of the company, we are actually analyzing these things and how we to make it better. I remember that one time we added one extra feature there into the game, and I was like, oh, what's this? When this came from, right? And they then explain me that it's something they want to try on this market, because it's just simply they think that it's going to work. So we did it, and it actually worked out. It's like 30% more than the regular game would be working. So it's that sort of experience are always good. And then you see, and then for the next one, you just add additional game with that feature plus some other feature or update of the previous feature. So, and for more, let's say, complex games, we also do like the sort of localization of the title, localization of the, I don't know, backgrounds and so on, right? So we completely change the game. For example, the most funny part was, for example, this one, Summer Bling, that we are just launching. And it's like, it was sort of becoming a game. We always were saying we need a summer game. And then we went to Brazil. So, well, it was soon to be like, it kind of looked like Copacabana Beach already back home. So I guess the art team was already quite amazed of that. So they just put it in. So yeah, so it really depends, you know, how these things are happening and how they want to try it, and that everybody thinks that this is now the thing that it will work. But it's more like try and fail and learn from it, right? I think that's the main thing that we're trying to do here.
Yep. And sometimes you have situations where you need to adapt for compliance purposes, the mechanics of the game. Let's say in Germany, you have the 5 seconds delay between spins. And I'm wondering, what would you say? Because when you have so many different special features and adaptations that are related to the regulation and to the expectations of the regulator, how much, let's say, of game remains in the game? So how much is the core, and how much of adaptation do you have in order to make it playable in the regulated market in question?
Yeah, for the German market, it's not a problem. This is one of the requirements, basic requirements, so that the game is actually considered properly done for the German market. So it's not a problem. So we have the game development team, which take care of these sort of things. And then also we have technical team who take care of things between the operator and us, or aggregator between us. So we always set up everything correctly in that sort of way so that we have all the requirements which basically compliance team prepares for us. And then this is circled between these three teams, right? And they are basically the ones responsible to get us the product that actually fits to that market, right? So there is no much this. It's more a question about what we can do on top of that. That's the extra, I would say, way that we can do, right? So that's the part that it's more expensive, I would say, than compared to the just basic requirements, because that scope normally everybody has. It's like one step up to get to the market, right? From let's say from the CIS market, right? You need to basically do specific features, vertical limitations of the games, and so on. And then from this, basically, you can enter the market. So it's fine. We are totally capable of doing these things, and we're actually quite good at it because we enter so many already.
But then, does it mean that whenever you have one game, but you need to release it into multiple markets, do you build as many games as markets, or do you have a different approach?
I mean, we have a different approach. We don't do every game separate code. We have one ID for one game, right? So basically, it is more on our technical side, on our tech team to set up everything correctly so that they know that this jurisdiction, basically set it up per jurisdiction, because they set up on this jurisdiction. For example, if there are DICE games, right, for B plus license, then they will just do these games, right? There's no way that one owner slot will creep in and say, hey, I'm here. And no, it will not work, right? It will not happen. So these sort of things are there set up. So, and it's quite clear what they need to do. If there will be like some massive drinking party, then that would be a problem. Next to the servers and everywhere, then that would, but we don't do that. Don't allow. But when we were talking about the localization, I mean, we did, for example, one game for one football club in Lithuania, Žalgiris, if I said it correctly. Žalgiris Legacy is the game, and it was done for one brand of Betson, and I mean, it was really, I was kind of proud in this one because we looked in a really short time, especially because it's so problematic market, because the process of certification and going live and approval is so long that it takes a lot of planning, and that you are on time, and that you don't miss the timings, and that actually they can actually launch it on specific campaign that they are getting live. So that was, I think, it shows that we can do that sort of things as well, which are quite complex, more than half a year project preparation, or even a year project preparations for that sort of thing. So it's really cool that our team can do that sort of things.
And you mentioned Germany, Lithuania, and how about Brazil? Did you have any adventures entering there?
Oh, that was an adventure, and it still is in one way. The Brazil, I mean, in my mind, it was that we need to be the first, which I think it was on every game provider's mind. But, things happen because it was mostly not so much on our side. Let's say we chose the lab, which was a bit too slow. And because of that, we had a lot of delays and problems. And because of that, we kind of didn't enter together with the rest on time, even though we had really good setup. Like we had a good setup of like more than 12 operators already signed and prepared. So in that sort of way, we were good. But we were not so much on the compliance part because there was delay and we could not do nothing to speed it up. We did speed it up with branded reports. We speeded it up with everything. So we were ready and just waiting to go live. So there is no thing that we can do there from our side. And now we are actually certifying already the second batch. Because normally we certify batches of games depending on the market size, from 12 to 35 games at once, depending on this. But right now we're kind of hoping that we're going to get around 40 games altogether. So it's quite nice portfolio, so that nobody can say that we're not serious about this market. And we are also adding all the top games that we are currently having on the market, in global market. And we're adding some specific games, which are going to then be in the phase 3 of the certification. However, we are already live on Superbet. However, just with 4 games, we're going to add soon another operator, Betano. and which I think it's a market leader there. And so we have Novibet, we have so many other like KTO, there's so many other operators there waiting to go live with us. Also with that, we are also aggregating Tada games, we're aggregating some other game providers which are there. So it's quite a nice experience, nice package from our perspective. However, we just need to sit and wait that things go forward and that now we can be live on as many operators as possible and that we can get some nice share out of it, right, as well. And I'm sure it's not going to be a small one because we're quite pushed on a lot of good titles, and we know that from what it's right now already live, we have quite nice competitive edge there.
Okay. And what do you think about celebrity endorsement and influencer marketing? And because we already seen that playing out for operators, for platforms, but if would that really be an option also for game studios? What's your take on this?
I mean, we tried also with some DJs, singers, tried sort of things. But like I said, the most safest version for us was actually like, for example, working together for some football team or something like that. It's more safe than actually, and brings a lot of players to play the game as well, right? And because with these celebrities, you never know how could be really good. It can backfire or that celebrity do something while you're developing something, so you never know. So this is the tricky part of things. Of course, you can manage this with the contracts and all that, but I think we're not there yet to do. We were talking about these things like a year ago, if we would do it for the Balkan market and so on. However, we're going to drop the idea and we then figured out that it's better just to do something more generic, to be honest. And then later on that we're going to really completely cover the whole market with all the operators that we're going to be live, then we can actually do something amazing. And I think this is the right way to go forward because at the time when we were like last year, we still were missing some key clients on this market. So it was not the best decision, right, to do something like that. It would maybe help us, to get more recognition, right? But in terms of players and so on, it would be much better to just have the first network and then basically launch that sort of game. But yeah, it's a thing, but I think that now it's more a question how much AI is going to replace these celebrities with the fake celebrities. So I think it's also this now the question. My AI image was always much better than my personal image. So, I guess the AI will win in that sort of case.
I might win some battles, but the question about the battle, the next question I'd like to ask you is about the battle for popularity. And so, whenever you launch a game and the usual huge spike occurs, but then what can be done and what strategy would you consider to implement in order to maintain the popularity and to maintain the high spirits around the game after the launch has already happened, say, weeks or months ago?
I mean, it's also the strategy how you launch the game, how you launch the whole first month, for example. When you launch with an operator, we do different things depending on the market. One is that normally we try avoid to just push the whole portfolio in one day. So we prefer to do it in steps and that players slowly get to know the games and that they understand what the games are about. So normally we don't go like in the full push of, I don't know, 50 games at once, but we normally try to get like 7 games or 12 games and then we add, one per week or two per week and so slowly grow the portfolio because then you can create more about the sort of banners, activities, CRM promotions around it. And you can also specialize it based on the month, for example, in which we are launching, right? If this is winter, then of course you can actually do quite a lot with it normally. And everybody's more hyped about everything, right, in terms of the team. So it really depends on that. However, after the spike, which normally happen, even if it's just one game, which actually you are positioning somewhere, and then the spike happen, and then it depends. Sometimes it can go down in a week, sometimes it can go down in a days, but normally, like if it happens, like let's say that happens on a weekly logic, we normally try to replace it with different game. We try to figure out which game would work. Even the circulation of the game sometimes actually help to even that you change the position of the game. Like you circled 4 games in each one for a week. And actually the players then come back to that game that they played already, and they will probably even spike it again, So it does sometimes work just to disappear the game and then put it back there. And then everybody's like, oh yeah, I know this one. So it can happen also there. But we do a lot of like things like we do tournaments, we do promotions, we do all sorts of things we try to do to basically find the right combination that will bring the player back to make it interesting. However, of course, it's also competition on the website. This is always the competition. You are like, if everybody's trying their own strategy, everybody's trying their own 5 seconds rule, right, on the page. So it's a tough job, right? And that's why account management team is so proactive, because they are monitoring everything day to day so that they know what's happening and that they can counter any sort of downfalls, right? But yeah, we have a full set of tools, so jackpots, free spins, tournaments, and we're also hiring new people to basically get any more specific promotions going on. So yeah, so we do a lot of things. We also like do branded games. We do localization of the games in terms of the titles, of the names, of the, even the icons and sometimes characters. So it really depends what it's possible, how big is the client, and all that.
Okay. And since I'm the data guy, I need to ask that question specifically. So, how do you leverage the data? How does it influence your choices, decisions, and what capabilities does it help you to unlock? Because you mentioned that you have data experts in your teams, both on account management sides, in the product teams, in the BI teams. What's your take on that?
I mean, of course, more and more analytical things are more important, because even operators, if you think of it, they're checking everything really. Sometimes even operators don't even have option to actually position anything. They just rely on the AI or some other tool, which actually just put the top performing games on the top positions. So, of course, for us, it's also important to check which are the positions, which game actually beat us in the position and do better. And it did appear the next time, for example. We were even thinking to get some tools for that, outsourced tools, but then we figured out that actually we do quite similar job already inside of the company with really handful of people, and that we can totally have better control, actually, especially in mostly not just analytical part, but also content part, so that the why these things happen, what is the background of this. So it's not just analytics like, oh yeah, this is 1, this is 2, and then, oh yeah, 2 is better than 1. I mean, wow, amazing. But why is the main reason? So then you go back and you check, like, if there was, I don't know, then you end up figuring out that it's a holiday, something like that, something so banal, right? So it depends on this, but we're testing also game to game and so on. So we're trying to figure out which mechanics actually work better. I mean, our game department would be better to answering this question than I am, but they are testing what features actually work, like I said before, and what sort of mistakes we did in the previous game. So, for example, if we do one tier 1 game for us and we did some mistakes and the players found out that there are some mistakes, not mistakes in mathematics or something, but mistakes in the way that we're thinking, oh yeah, that could be a better user experience, or maybe this will actually trigger them to get another, I don't know, buy feature, or so they will trigger more buy feature like several times, not just once or something like that. We sort of analyze this stuff, and we also analyze things like in terms of what was the case. We did one case with one game that we are going to launch next year, though. But we actually changed everything, from changing backgrounds. Like, I'm more visual guy, as you noticed. But for me, like, it was really important to see this, like, that they changed the backgrounds, that they changed the characters, that symbols have changed, that basically whole mechanics of how the player experience, that it's more fun, even though we all know that it's for money, but it's why it needs to be so boring, anyway. So we are really focusing on that part as well. So, and our games are mostly really nicely built in the visuals part, if you ask me. So the mechanics behind it, I mean, our guys in the game development, they will always say, oh, yeah, but they have amazing mechanics behind it. And I'm like, okay, but I don't see the mechanics. I don't understand it on the first spin, right? So you see it later on. when you play the games for so many rounds. So this is what they're doing. They're our enigma to our team because we don't sometimes understand them what doing there in their calculations.
Okay, got a final one for you. What do you think about the future, how the game of tomorrow is going to look like? And is there anything that will change, minor changes when it comes to the game design and development?
Well, like I said last year to our game development team, also this year, I still think every summer there should be a mosquito game so that you can kill all the mosquitoes. But in terms of other things, I think that AI is really right now, like everybody's talking about AI. However, I think at the end can be a tool or can be like change of how we do things in developing of the games, that some things are going to be done faster, especially the easier part. I think they can right now do it faster. It's also right now we use it more like a recommendation thing than actually a real final version of the thing, right? So right now we're on this stage, I think, but it can get more complicated. And if somebody will invest a lot of money, then I think it can be a big industry changer. We are using AI, of course, for a lot of things. However, I don't think that we're going to put all trust into just one machine for now, because from my experience, every time I'm trying to use any AI tool, like I end up finding some sort of mistake, and it looks great, but then at the end, when you try to use it later on, even for example, my father is also IT guy, and he also said that sometimes the AI gives you this perfect solution, but then you try to use it and it's useless, and you can just throw it away. And in this sort of set, you need to basically check every single thing in the AI. So sometimes you have more problem checking these things, right? And it sometimes even convince you that everything looks fine and perfect, but then you do one mistake and it's a problem. So in our industry, I think we cannot afford to have one mistake in a game because it can destroy the company. So that's why I think it's enough. And especially because it's all built on trust and that we don't have a problem with the thematics and that sort of thing. So for us, it's very important that this is properly done.
Yep, validation and trust are key. Okay, Rock, thanks a lot for this interview. Thank you for joining.
Welcome. Anytime coming back soon. Yes, I can.
Perfect. So for today, that's all be. Thanks a lot, Rock, and thank you, guys, for listening. So today we covered games, and data, and that shall be it for now. Time to sign off. Remember, just one thing: keep rolling with the data.